where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
Hi. Hey, you're listening to this on Thanksgiving, which means you're probably not listening to it, but happy.
You may be listening to this much later.
Happy whenever, whatever. Eat your food. I don't know. Enjoy your pie. I'm fine.
I don't celebrate it, so.
I'm not really. It's fucking whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Yep, that's good radio. Look,
it's that time of the year.
I just drove 5 hours, over 5 hours, almost 6, and I'm exhausted.
She had to do an
crazy.
airport drive.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fine. It's all good, but I'm just nuts now and tired, so you're welcome. Let's get started. It's still Children Who Kill Month. God, I can't talk.
Murderous minors.
I like that way better. It's easier because if you say child killer, then people assume I mean a guy who kills children, but I mean the children are doing the killing. Yes. So what do you got for us today, Willow?
Today we're going to be talking about Amarjeet Sada, the world's youngest serial killer.
Oh, no.
So trigger warnings for this episode include infant murder, descriptions of injuries of infants. I don't go into graphic detail.
Thank you.
And suggestive child abuse. Or, no, it's child abuse, but still. I don't go too far in depth with any of the trigger warnings, though. So, Amarjeet Sada was born in 1998 in a small village in northern India in extreme poverty. The village was predominantly migrant workers, like Amarjeet's father, who would search for temporary daily work from his surrounding farms. Every day, they would walk from farm to farm, asking for any labor work, if at all possible. And if a farm didn't need any labor that day, they would move on to the next farm. They were paid only a few dollars a day for their work, and if there was no work to be found, it's likely their families would have to go hungry that day. Literally hand-to-mouth families. It was extremely hard work for horrendously long hours, only to be paid barely enough to survive. That's also why there's very little solid information on this case. Both Indian and world media have a lot of contradicting details on this case, so it makes the research pretty difficult. So I'm going to be very, a lot of these things that we're going to talk about in this episode are kind of generalized statements. I'm also omitting quite a few names because, across platforms they use different names. And dates or ages may be incorrect just because, again, it was really hard to get a solid
source on
source.
this one.
Yeah,
that agreed
sure.
across the board. I get you.
Like a few of them said that one of the children were one age, and then a lot of sources would say another age. Some sources would say that a particular individual was his aunt, and then some would say it was his uncle. So again, generalized, but I still think that this story needs to be talked about because this child was very young when he committed these crimes. So, excuse me. Some sources stated that the Sada family was a very well-known family, a very big family, which took up the majority of the small village community. Other sources stated that the Sada family were part of the Untouchables, known more commonly today as the Dalit. Now, those are not mutually exclusive. They, obviously could be a very big family and still be Untouchables, but not really sure exactly. But that's still kind of where their status was. Whether or not their specific family was considered untouchable, that's
the caste system in India, by the way.
Yes. So untouchability was actually banned from the Constitution of India in 1950, but it started in 400 BC. Yeah. So, it wasn't necessarily part of their, structure, but it was still heavily
It's pretty
regarded.
ingrained culturally.
Absolutely, and still to this day. Culturally speaking, it's also believed that the untouchables were reincarnated into that class because of crimes that they had committed in their past lives. So society saw it as they deserved to be there. And not only did they deserve to be there, it was part of their karma and part of almost like their prolonged sentencing or, payment for the deeds that they had done. So a lot of people believed that they deserved to be there. And still to this day, there are over 200 million people considered to be Dalits today. And India has over 600 villages. And in each one of these villages, they actually have like separate communities on the outskirts of their villages specifically for the untouchables. Now, Amarjeet was part of one of these communities outside of the village. And the fathers worked, the mothers would take care of the cooking and cleaning at home, and the children all ended up playing together outside. And a lot of the children, these are like mostly big families. So a lot of the children were cousins or distant relatives, somehow related, or just really close family friends. They kind of grew up together. Amarjeet was, he grew up playing with all of these kids and the children around the village. But as he aged, he became more and more aggressive. There's no real reason that we know of as to why, but when the other children, roughhoused or wrestled or just generally played, he'd always take it to the extreme. He would hit with closed fists with all of his might. He would bite. He would kick. He would actively seek to hurt the other children and act as though he was just playing like they were. He smiled the entire time, this big Cheshire grin that he was very known for. It got to the point that the children slowly stopped wanting to play with him, and he eventually didn't want to play with them either. He became a loner, and he really liked it that way. He would climb trees and go up there and sit in the branches all day and watch people down on the streets below. The other children would see him up there alone, and they would call up to him in the tree and try to invite him to go play, but he would scream at them to go away, and they ended up avoiding him at all costs. But from what little stories have come out about Amarjeet's childhood and upbringing, as far as anyone can tell, he had come from a very loving family. His mother doted on her only son. She anointed his forehead with charcoal every day for protection. She prayed for him continuously and considered him an absolute blessing to their family. Many people believed that, culturally speaking, that he may have been overly exalted because of, his status as the firstborn male child, especially the social standings for men, especially at the time, being a household provider and carrying the family name, and then eventually, taking care of his parents one day. That was, it's very
their
culturally
social
sound.
structure. Yep.
Absolutely, because if you have a daughter, you're kind of giving her away as a gift. If you have a son, he's giving you the gift of taking care of you into your old age.
Yeah, I don't like none of that.
No, but for impoverished families, having a son who would grow to take care of them when they're old.
It's celebrated.
Absolutely, and it's considered a blessing. I don't know if, people want to take it as far as, a blessing from God or at least a blessing to their family, but it is looked at as a blessing of having a son. So I understand why she was doting on her son so much, but a lot of people who are close to this story believe that it might have gone a little bit too far, maybe got to his head or something. It may have affected him as a young child in some way. And even though they barely made enough money to survive, let alone have full course meals, they tried to keep Amarjeet's life as comfortable as possible. But he would still throw temper tantrums if he didn't get what he wanted. And, most people would hear that and think that was very typical of a child. Children will be children. They have temper tantrums, but he continued his temper tantrums long past being a toddler. Even up until he's like 7 and 8, which is when this case takes place, and his temper tantrums would grow with his age. Like, as he got bigger, he threw bigger and bigger temper tantrums. He would hit, he would kick, he would just scream until he got his way. He was 7 years old when his aunt, his mom's sister, came to visit, pleading with his mother to help her. She had had a baby about 6 to 8 months prior, and she was desperately searching for ways to make ends meet. She had finally found a job in a nearby city. It was housekeeping for a month. From sunup to sundown, like her hours were long. Like if she was awake, she would be cleaning. And allegedly, this month's worth of work, like she would get paid at the end of the month. And she was only promised to receive about $100 pay for that month. And that was a lot.
Wow.
So that just kind of puts it into perspective. You know, the father was making a couple dollars a day.
Sad.
Yeah.
I don't know how people are, well, I won't get on my high horse.
No, but I mean, it just kind of puts it into perspective, the level of poverty that these communities were facing at the time, and how important it was for them to, you know, just continuously seeking other sources of income. So, you know, her coming to her sister with her, you know, 6 to 8 month old baby to watch her for a month, that was really hard and really extreme for her, but she had to do what she had to do for her child and for her family. So it is understandable. It must have been so excruciatingly hard to do, but the one person she could think of that would take care of her child while she was away was her sister, of course. Now, at first, Amarjeet's mother was very concerned. She was pregnant herself, due any moment, and she didn't know if she could physically do it. She didn't know if she could both take care of a child, take care of her young son, and be, you know, 8 months, 9 months pregnant with such little source of income. She didn't know if she could feed all of these mouths at once. But her sister told her that she would send money home, send a portion of her earnings home to her so that way she could have, you know, groceries and everything covered. And honestly, this little bit of money that she would receive from her sister was a huge impact to their finances for that month. So she took it. She had to.
Of course.
You know? This benefited both sisters. So his cousin came to stay with their family, and Amarjeet seemed to get along pretty well with the baby in the house. He was very gentle and attentive and otherwise kept to himself, as he usually did, playing with toys in his room or climbing trees outside. One day, his mother put the baby down for their nap. So many sources went back and forth over the baby's gender, so I'm just not going to use a gender.
It doesn't matter.
It does not matter at all. So his mother put the baby down for their nap, and she told Amarjeet that while the baby was sleeping, she was going to go up the street to the market to go get food for dinner. She wouldn't be far, nor would she be gone long, and she'd probably be back before the baby even woke up. She told him just to stay put, you know, keep playing with his toys, and she'll be back before he knew it. She really wasn't gone long, and she really was just right up the street. He smiled at her, and she thought everything would be just fine, just normal. But it wasn't. The second she left the house, Amarjeet went to his sleeping cousin's crib. He stared at them for a while, and they were sleeping soundly. He reached into the crib and gave their little cheeks a sweet little pinch. Wasn't waking the baby at all. He was just admiring the baby. And then, out of nowhere, he reared his hand back and slapped the baby across the face with all of his might.
Oh, my God.
The baby woke up screaming in pain, and then he reached into the crib with both hands, and he choked the baby with all of his might. It didn't take long for the infant to die.
It's terrible.
Amarjeet then took his baby cousin from the crib and carried it outside to the edge of the woods, where he laid the baby down on the ground and grabbed a brick.
Oh, my God.
And bashed its skull in, before very crudely attempting to bury this child in a small grave. And then he went back into his room and played with his toys, as if nothing happened.
Had he had any signs like hurting animals or anything like that we know of anyway?
Just roughhousing with his friends. We know of no animal cruelty whatsoever.
Something snapped in that kid.
I have my thoughts. We'll see. When his mother came home from the market, she found that her son was just as she had left him. He was just there playing with his toys, but there was no baby. She asked him where the baby was, and he simply told her that he had killed them. She didn't believe him. She couldn't believe him.
No.
She was thinking maybe there was an accident. Maybe he thought that he had injured the baby. You know, maybe this was just childish make-believe. Who knows? But she knew instantly that he was telling the truth when he led her, without a word, led her outside into the woods and pointed at the ground and said, "There."
Oh God, I just feel sick. Like, I can't imagine just your stomach would drop. How, like, it would chill you, like, shake your bones.
I don't know how this woman made it past the next few seconds.
I don't know what I'd do.
No.
I'd wish to be dead right on the spot.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you that much.
I think my heart would stop beating.
God.
She, just brushed the ground and there was the baby. It was very crudely covered. And she just held that child and just sobbed.
I can't imagine the horror. I can't.
It's said that when the father came home from work that day, his wife met him with this story of what happened. And he flew into a rage, beating this young boy within an inch of his life.
I mean, obviously I don't condone any abuse of a child regardless of what they've done. But I can see why that happened. Like, I can mentally go through those steps. I have empathy for the father. I mean, he should not have done that. Absolutely.
He should have never touched that child.
No,
but
only lay a hand on your kids.
If you were to see anyone murder a baby, you would want to do that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that I can be mad at him about it. It's just kind of heartbreaking.
Again, I don't know this family. There's not much about this family. But I do wonder if that was the first time he laid hands on that child.
I doubt it. I'm just being honest.
If
it was, let's just go with that.
I can't throw accusations at people that I
No.
don't know nor have any information on. But
something had to happen.
Where did the child learn aggression and violence in that manner?
Yeah. I mean, roughhousing, you learn it. You could, I mean, but that's not why. But let's just say, let's play devil's advocate and say that the dad never laid a hand on the child till that day. I can understand it.
He was very proud of this incident, and everyone knew that it happened eventually. So
the pride in it tells me this has happened before.
He essentially thought that he could beat this out of this boy. If
we're using that kind of fucking reasoning, not that I just became unhinged for a moment.
It's really hard not to for me to like. Oh, I thought you meant like come unhinged about the subject.
Yeah, well, like if the dad had been like, I lost my mind.
Right. Yes,
I didn't mean to do that, but I lost it.
He sought this as prolonged form of punishment.
You can't punish murder out of somebody.
That maybe if he beat it out of the child, that he would never think of harming another person again.
Yeah, that's not how that works. No. Violence begets violence.
Children mirror.
Exactly.
Children
this
mirror.
tells me that his father was so callous and abusive, possibly, theoretically, allegedly, that this was a normal thing to him. Just saying. That's my 2 cents, and I'm going to take it.
Well, and I do understand that, spanking and stuff, even though I almost said I don't appreciate it. I don't like it. I don't condone it. But I do know that it is a cultural thing, a cultural practice. So I do think that he was boasting about it in a way that was saying, I'm being a good father, and I'm handling.
I understand that, but I do want to make my stance.
Of course, because I stand right
spanking
there
is
with
child
you.
abuse.
Yeah,
end.
That's why in the trigger warning I said possible child abuse, and then I corrected myself.
Yeah, you did. Good job.
This
Proud
is
of
what
you for
I'm
that.
talking about.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I think both me and you agree that it's child abuse.
1,000%.
And this comes from, I was spanked as
Me
a child.
too.
And you know what? No, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And I did spank.
I did once, and it ruined me because I thought I was being a good
Handful of
parent.
times. Yes, I
was
been raised that
17
way.
and I was 17 when I got pregnant, so I wasn't.
It wasn't just nobody told you. They just said, you spank your kids when they misbehave and then they'll act right.
Oh, my family was raised on if you spare the
rod, you spoil the child.
And so I was raised that if you don't hit your kids when they're wrong, that you are ruining them.
Yeah, you're spoiling them and ruining their life. I was raised that way too, but not with a religious bent, just with this is how we discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Also yelling. Yeah, that's fine. But then when I don't know what possessed me to do this, but Will was 6 and I asked them, how does it make you feel when mommy gives you a spanking? And he said, I feel really sad and scared.
Yeah.
And I thought, I ain't teaching you nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't teaching nothing. I am terrorizing my baby.
Yep.
So no, I don't believe spanking is anything but fucking child abuse and violence. We cannot teach our kids that way.
It doesn't. It's not intellectual parenting, if that makes sense. It's not. You being intelligent and coming to your child in a place that your child can actually understand what you're saying.
And don't you think, too, that our expectations of children are wild sometimes? Because people will be like, oh, you spilled the milk, you stupid, I'm mad, and I'll spank you. But when an adult spills the milk, if somebody were to come up to you and spank you, you would beat the fuck out of them, and you'd be well within your rights to do so. Yet we tell this child, so I can't get off on a
laying
tangent.
hands on another human being should be illegal no matter what the age. If they turn 18 and then you hit them, then you
jail.
Exactly.
Immediately
but below
jail.
18...
Yeah, see, that's where I'm... And, I know I'm going to... Because I've talked about it before, and I did get nasty mail, and that's fine. It's just going to go in the trash. Right. Happy Thanksgiving. I don't care.
I do think that it needs to be a topic of discussion because a lot of us, I don't want to say we all, but a lot of us have been through it both on the receiving end and on the giving end.
Yeah.
And I think that it is something that needs to be discussed so that way we can culturally together
come away from this
end to it. Yeah.
Gentle parenting. Look it up. I really believe in it. And when I changed to gentle parenting, my kids were never scared of me again.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, and you can vouch for this, if I don't have the 3 most angelic children on the face of this earth.
Pure good souls. Good
excellent human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I will go to my grave full of just self-loathing and regret that I ever laid a hand on my babies. And I swore that day I'd never do it again, and I didn't.
Same.
But that just means we can all change.
Exactly. That's the point.
And I'm not saying the kid got a couple spankings and turned him into a serial killer. That's ridiculous. That's not what I'm saying at all.
We don't know what happened to the child.
We don't know.
But
something
had to. I mean, well, and this case is a very good example of the discussion of nature versus nurture.
I agreed with you. All this whole month has been that way.
Exactly.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm at the point where I believe it's both.
Absolutely.
I believe it's both.
Absolutely. It has to be.
It
has to be both.
You can't remove nurture from it.
Yeah.
Because how many times do we run into these cases where they just had a perfect childhood?
Exactly.
I've never seen it. But how many of us have had wretched childhoods, abusive childhoods, but we didn't kill or hurt nobody?
Well, there's been a few where it's like there was no indicator in the childhood at all that, maybe later on in their teens or early 20s, something happened or they saw something.
There are very rare cases, but in these, when we've been talking about child perpetrators,
yes, absolutely.
They've always come from abusive backgrounds.
Because they have to be. With child killers, with murderous minors, it kind of has to be somewhat nurture because they haven't gotten out of the non-nurturing stage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're not at adulthood.
And this ain't about I don't want to pass the buck to the parents every time, but I have yet to find a case where the parents do not have culpability and frankly, in my opinion, should be in fucking jail. In jail, all these people.
This case is one of those where you would, not necessarily based on the parents' actions or alleged actions, but they still did not follow the law.
Jail.
So the mother goes to the father, tells the father what happened. He beats the son. Once he's calmed down, they discuss what to do next.
Oh, shit.
Now, this is going to give you some sort of a moral dilemma, as
Yeah, it
you
is.
know,
I already see it coming.
but you got to look at all sides of it.
You do.
We're not in their shoes.
No, I don't know what the fuck I would do.
Exactly.
Probably something similar to what they're about to do, gonna be honest.
So if they go to the police, they would essentially lose their son.
Yes.
And their entire family would be ostracized even more.
Yep.
Even more untouchable.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
If word got out amongst the village, which you know it would,
Of course it would.
the family could face so much ridicule that it would be hard, if not impossible, to find work again. Not just for his father, but
for
all of his
yeah.
uncles and all of his family members. All of his family members would have to leave.
They're gonna have to come up with a different fucking story.
Or just keep it in the family.
That too.
Because, you know, they couldn't bring their cousin back. They couldn't bring the baby back. And if they did anything about it, everything would be gone.
Yeah, I really empathize with them on this.
Yeah.
I cannot say in their place what I would do.
Exactly.
I can't.
Exactly.
I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
I won't judge them for that.
Mm-hmm. I know. I can't.
Because I can't.
Mm-mm. So, yeah, they kept quiet, allegedly burying the small child in an unmarked grave out back behind the house, and they waited for the child's mother to come home from work.
Oh, God.
When that day came, she entered their home and immediately knew something was wrong. It was as if her sister and her brother-in-law were just waiting on her to enter that door. Her sister was sitting on the couch with her head in her hands, crying. Her brother-in-law stepped forward and fell at her feet, sobbing. She asked repetitively what was wrong, and there was no answer.
Oh, God.
They couldn't speak through their cries. And she's just frantically, what's wrong? What's wrong? Where's my baby? Is everything okay? What is going on? And when he finally gathered himself, her brother-in-law looked up at her and said, "There's been an accident." Now, in the doorway, just over his shoulder, behind his parents, is Amarjeet, trying to hide behind the door, halfway peeking out, smiling.
Oh. Some scary shit.
His father told her that her baby and Amarjeet were playing and that there was an accident and the baby died. They told her that they just panicked, knowing nothing that they could do would bring the baby back to life. They buried the baby and reprimanded Amarjeet. Now, after a long discussion with the baby's mother, Amarjeet, his aunt, agreed that based on what the possibilities were, the outcomes, the decisions to make, that she would keep this in the family.
Yeah, I don't blame her for that decision either. Because they're looking at it like, we already lost one young life, why are we going to lose two?
And not just two, multiple.
But the whole family.
The whole family.
The whole family's fucked now.
They're on the brink of starvation every single day. So they're just going to starve to death.
This is just a terrible story.
It is, and it only gets worse. Remember, he's a serial killer.
Yeah, I got that.
Now, there are a lot of other sources that claim that this child was actually her 6-year-old daughter, so his 6-year-old cousin, and that, you know, she used to play with all the children in the village, and then one day she just went missing. So it's not clear if it was a baby or a 6-year-old child. Given the way that the rest of the case goes, I lean more towards this is an infant. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Either way, the community noticed that the Sada child was missing. But since the family was not openly grieving and there was no funeral services, they just assumed that it wasn't their business and they didn't press. So it's very kind of, it's community politeness to, you know, if somebody's not openly talking about a subject, you don't pry. And they didn't. Amarjeet's father was determined to punish his child so ruthlessly that he would never attempt to harm another child again. And A few months later, Amarjeet's baby's sister was born. And it seemed like the punishment had worked, because when his sister came into this world, he doted on her.
Well, he was being nice with that first baby, too, so I don't trust that at all.
He was helpful with all the newborn needs. He made sure his mother was comfortable during feedings. He seemed to have turned a new leaf, so to speak. Months went by, and Amarjeet seemed to be doing pretty well for himself. Every day after lunch, the family settled in for a nap. They put the baby down, they laid down, or just kind of like got some rest
Just
while
some
the
quiet
baby
time, yeah.
quiet time while the baby slept. Usually Amarjeet didn't sleep during this time. He would stay in his room and play with toys, or he would, quietly play in a tree somewhere, but usually during this time he was just in his room just tinkering with stuff. One afternoon, approximately 8 months since the death of his cousin, Amarjeet, and during this nap time, Amarjeet just randomly decided to walk into his 6-month baby sister's room while his parents were sleeping. And the way that the way that the rooms are set up, so it's a very, very small house, and the rooms are all kind of clustered right next to each other.
Right.
So his parents, like, each doorway can see into the alternate rooms.
Right,
So,
got it.
if his parents are asleep with the door open, the baby's door is open, they can hear everything. It's not a big deal.
I would never have gone to sleep and left that child wandering around. Just
Given
saying.
the track record.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can judge him for that. And I'm gonna.
But again, they doted on him. They loved him. They thought maybe that was just a fluke, that he really learned his lesson. So while they're sleeping, Amarjeet creeps into his little sister's room. He reaches his arms into her crib. And without a single sound, he put his hands around his sister's throat and strangled her to death. Before she could even realize what was going on, before she could even let out a sound, she was dead. And his parents did not wake up.
God.
And then he just left her there in the crib and went back into his room and played with his toys. When his parents woke up, his mother went straight to check on the baby. She saw her sleeping in the crib. She reached her hand down to stroke her baby's cheek, and she was ice cold.
Oh, that's terrible.
His mother fell to her knees in absolute horror, just screaming.
Mm-hmm.
She knew instantly what had happened. She started screaming for Amarjeet, screaming, "What have you done?" His father rushes in, and you can assume what happened next.
Yeah, I can.
The family decided once again to keep this death in the family.
I don't know what else they could do.
Once again, the villagers noticed that there was a Sada baby missing again, but once again, they didn't show any remorse. There was no funeral. There was no mourning period. They just assumed that it was a family thing.
And people didn't pry.
Yeah. You never know. If a family's not mourning the death of a baby, maybe that baby went to go live with grandparents or something.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. So a few months later, in 2007, a young mother of a 6-month-old baby girl named Khushbu dropped her baby off at a local daycare while she went shopping and run errands. Now, this wasn't a professional daycare by any means. This was simply a house or private residence where a few mothers and aunties would gather and watch the children.
We got that in the States, too.
We have them
Especially
everywhere.
around here.
Especially around here. Honestly, sometimes I trust them more than I trust some of the daycare establishments. But, this wasn't a place with like a front desk or cameras or anything like that. It was just a house. And there was an array of young children and babies and toddlers alike running around. Khushbu was luckily asleep when her mother dropped her off. She hoped that her baby would still be napping when she got back from running errands. She said it wouldn't take very long. But when she got back to pick up her daughter, she was nowhere to be found. And the women working the daycare were baffled. They didn't see anyone come in. They didn't see anyone take Kushbu. When you hear of a missing baby, they think, oh, like, there was no man here. Like, there was no stranger here.
Right.
There was no, we've been here this whole time. Of course, they're not going to stand over a sleeping baby all day when they've got toddlers running around. They didn't see anything. Kushbu's mother frantically ran out of the daycare crying and grabbing every passerby that she had seen, screaming, asking them, pleading for them to know anything of what happened to her baby. She was desperate to find her daughter. One passerby knew instantly what had happened. All the mother had to say was that her infant was missing, and this person knew that it had to have been Amarjeet. Many of the Sada family members knew what Amarjeet had done and had sworn to secrecy, but this had gone outside of the family. Now, there had been actual mixed reports on who this person was, whether it was his aunt or his uncle or, just a distant family member. But whoever this person was, whoever this family member was, they led the woman to the police station. She reported her daughter missing, and they reported a potential suspect. Police approached the house of Amarjeet, hoping that maybe this little 8-year-old had seen something or may have known something, or maybe was one of the last people who saw this little girl. Maybe he could place her somewhere. They definitely didn't believe that this very tiny, smiling 8-year-old little boy was capable of harming a child, harming anyone, much less a baby. But instead, when police confronted Amarjeet about the young Kushbu, he calmly smiled and told them that he killed her. Just like that. He brought the police to this place in the woods where he had, again, very crudely in a very shallow grave, buried this little baby. And just like his cousin, he had smashed her head in, and it was just like what he did to his cousin.
Terrible. I don't understand.
The police took the boy back to the police station for questioning, where they asked him to explain what he had done to the child and why he had committed such a gruesome act. He looked at them, smiling, and asked them for tea and biscuits. Cookies. Not Southern biscuits. Now, after the officer left to go fetch this tea and biscuits, the boy just sat there with the other officers in the room, didn't say a word, just smiled. This big smile.
Yeah, something's real broken in there.
After he was given the tea and biscuits, he took a couple bites of the biscuits, he took a couple sips of tea, and he sat back and he very plainly, through a big smile, told the officers every little detail of what he had done to all 3 babies. Even going so far as to physically show the officers what he had done.
It just somehow didn't seem wrong to him. I don't understand.
Exactly. No, that's exactly the point.
Yeah, it just wasn't wrong
It
to him.
didn't seem wrong to him at all. And the officers were just left completely beside themselves. Like, they could not imagine. And when I say he is a small 8-year-old, he is tiny.
Yeah, a little bitty.
This child is tiny. And he's only 8. He's a serial killer. Like,
I can't imagine.
They couldn't imagine either. They were just dumbfounded and beside themselves. And psychologists, once he, was taken in and everything like that, psychologists flocked to him. Psychologists from all over the world. They wanted to study this child. I mean, this is the world's youngest serial killer. They really want to study him and figure out what is going on with him and what made him turn into this human being. It was really hard to wrap one's mind around the nature versus nurture of this very young serial killer. One psychologist said that he was a sadist, that he derived pleasure from inflicting pain on others. He was later diagnosed with conduct disorder, which impaired his ability to discern right from wrong. But here's the thing. A lot of people believed that he didn't know that what he was doing was wrong But each time he was questioned, both by police and family members, he told the direct and honest truth every single time. He never lied to try to cover up what he had done. He said that, or when the police asked him why he never lied, or like why he was so blunt about what he had done, I think that they were wondering if maybe he was proud of what he had done. He told them that his mother had told him that lying was wrong, and so he didn't want to lie. So he knew lying was wrong. So he knew right from wrong. Maybe he just didn't know that violence was wrong. Because when his mother asked him, what he had done and why he told her, I killed her. I wanted to. Why shouldn't I have?
Oh, that's very unsettling.
So he knows what he is doing. He knows certain things are right and wrong. I don't think he understood that killing was wrong.
Or maybe he didn't understand the permanence of it. I mean, he's so little.
Right.
I don't know on this one. I have nothing. I got nothing.
Right? And I see why this is a case that is worth studying.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely worth studying. And I think that we should continue to study it. Yeah. Because we never want this to happen ever again.
No. That's kind of my big thing with true crime.
It's prevention.
Like, what can we do so that these things stop? And that so our children and our women and our men are safe.
Yes.
And in order to do that, I think we have to look at the mistakes of the past. But
and correct them.
In doing this, I get really down a lot because I'm like, I don't see any of this getting fixed. But at least in study and bringing awareness and honoring the victims, at least maybe something somewhere will make a difference somehow.
Because if their stories aren't told, how can we learn from them?
Yes, I agree with you. They're not fun to research. They're certainly not fun to listen to.
It's painful. It's painful to do this every day, like day in and day out for years on end.
It's hard on your mental health sometimes.
Yes, absolutely.
But I do think it's important. So.
It is very important.
Because I've never heard of this case.
Exactly.
Never.
Exactly. And, I think that it really leans really hard into the fact that all people, rich, poor, ostracized, impoverished, the mediocre, every single human being needs to be accounted for, and every single human being needs to not only be respected, but their needs need to be met. Their physical, their psychological needs need to be met. I don't know how taxes work in India, clearly, but I know that we all pay taxes. We go to fucking prison if we don't pay taxes. Those taxes should be paying for the ability for our people to be safe, well-fed, clothed, happy, and their needs met.
I'm not even going to go there today.
It just pisses me off that these people's lives, all of these victims that we talk about in the true crime community, I can't think of a single one of these victims whose lives would have been spared or would not have been spared if mental health
were a priority
and stability were priority. Because our mental health strongly hinges on our abilities to be housed, fed, and clothed.
But nobody gives a fuck, and I don't think they ever will. Hooray!
That is literally the only thing that I care about.
Yeah.
Is that human beings have their needs met.
Yeah.
I don't care about much else.
Nope.
And this is one of those situations where their needs weren't met and something really bad happened.
Yeah.
And there could have been a lot of reasons why X, Y, and Z happened, but it stems back to that.
And I'll say it again. If you eliminate poverty,
you eliminate crime.
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying rich folks don't kill people.
Absolutely,
sure.
Absolutely.
But I would put it to you that it's an outlier, and predominantly it is lower class folks.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm not getting on no high horse today. I'm tired.
Right.
But y'all know what we're saying.
It does seem to be an underlining theme, if not the main theme.
It is.
It is.
Yep. Because with access to proper mental health care, if you're housed and resources aren't an issue, crime just doesn't happen as much.
Well, we can catch it before it happens is the thing. We can address the issues before it happens.
And look, I'm not saying the elimination of poverty would completely eliminate crime, but man, it
like
take a big
98.9%.
Like if you think about it, just sit
I mean,
there.
we could put it to a test and you could let me know if I'm wrong. But
because people, when you're poor, addiction issues, because you're just fucking fucked.
Anxiety, and all of the mental health disorders that stem strictly from your needs not being met.
Yeah.
Strictly just from not being housed.
Mm-hmm.
And displaced.
But like I said, I don't want to get too.
This is my life goal, is to rant about that particular subject for the rest of until my last breath. I won't stop. But
you may direct your hate mail at Willow this time.
Yes,
because I said I wouldn't do it.
My name at gmail.com. Just hit me up.
Oh, I'll put it in the description. Don't worry, because I'm tired of reading it.
I'll take it.
You can have some for fun.
But yeah, that's what I'm on. So. Speaking of poverty and all of that stuff, so the mother of Khushbu would later go on to retract her statement. So when she was first interviewed, right when she found out that her baby was missing, and I think right after she found out that her baby was murdered, she ended up telling a story that was very verbatim of what Amarjeet had told, that she went and dropped her baby off, she left, and blah, blah, blah. Well, since then, the story has changed quite a bit. There's been very, very, very many variations of the story. One was that the baby was left in a stroller at a park because she thought that it was fine just sleeping in the stroller while she went down.
Well, I know they do that in Denmark, but I don't think they do that in India as far as I know. I don't know.
I don't know anything. But other stories state that she, took the baby to a school or what have you. My opinion, and I think it's the opinion of many people, is that she changed her story so that way the daycare didn't get any backlash for it.
Makes sense to me.
Think about who's owning that daycare. Think about the lives at stake. Yes, absolutely.
She didn't want to get them in trouble.
Do you really want to ruin their source of income and the place that the village children go to be watched?
No.
Do you want to ruin that for everyone? There's a lot of compassion in her changing her statement.
I really appreciate that from her. That's a lot of respect from me.
It would be very difficult to do knowing that could harm her case in court. Now, not that there was much court going on about this case because of the child's young age. You can't
put a child of 8 on trial.
No, and especially in India. They have a below 18 law, and I think that might have been a little bit skewed in the last few years because there was a case where a bunch of teenagers killed someone, and one of them was 17 and a half.
Yeah.
So I think that person, the law ended up changing so that person could be committed for murder. But as far as Amarjeet is concerned, Amarjeet, I'm sorry, I've been... my dyslexia was really bad on this episode. I actually had to go through and change the spelling of his name to the correct spelling, and my brain has still been saying it a little wonky this entire episode.
Amarjeet.
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 Yeah. The M and R got switched in my brain. But yeah, he ended up going to basically like a children's facility. They called it like a house for like a child's house or something like that, but it was more of a facility because they had to keep him in solitary confinement pretty much the entire time until he turned 18 in 2016, and
he was released, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Oh, that's fucked up and scary.
Just like all of the others from this month.
Yep.
That honestly, like, that's part of like the, I wouldn't say gut wrenching part of the story. It's the gut dropping.
What do you do?
It's like whenever you're going up and down on a roller coaster and your stomach kind of falls out your butt. That's what it feels like. It's like when you let them out of prison or jail or the facility. And then
you have the freckle face killer, and he's like, I want to work with kids.
Yeah.
No.
Well, allegedly, Amarjeet went out and got married and now lives close door to his mother. He has since changed his name.
Yeah, you'd have to.
I think almost every single child from this month has, and is just now amongst the people. I think he's about 25, 26 now. And so, yeah, that's a thing. And with the severity of his crimes.
Well, I don't think he should have ever been let out.
The space in between each crime was only a handful of months.
Yeah, I know it.
Most serial killers take at least a year off the first time.
Yeah.
You know, and then progressively kind of get
ramped up. And they have periods
and then
of activity.
they have long periods. So it's like, it's scary now with him out. It's like you don't really know what to expect. You hope that young 8-year-old little boy learned his lesson, maybe got some kindness, maybe received some mental health help or guidance, or found someone to look up to. You know, it's like you really hope
even
for the
then,
best on
I don't
that.
know what I don't know about this one, you know?
With the smiling.
Yeah. Taking
with
the pleasure
with the
in it,
pleasure
yeah,
that he got
weird.
from it.
I don't like it.
It doesn't leave much hope, but you know, well, let's just hope. Anyways, let's be the Lulu until it's true Lulu, and just really hope that, you know, I just really hope that these people that we talk about this month were able to see some sort of light and come out the other side, because they're in society now. We just kind of have to hope that that's what's happening, because
the alternative is quite frightening.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of the themes coming up, is current serial killers, and I really don't want to transfer between these serial killers.
Oh, yeah, I get you.
Current day.
Now, normally...
You used your transition voice.
Indeed. This would be business time, but
It's
you know what?
not.
I ain't feeling it.
We ain't
It's a
wearing no
holiday.
business socks today.
I ain't wearing no socks. My little piggies is cold. But I would like to... Look, Thanksgiving is a colonizer holiday. We all know that. I don't even call it that.
You're not saying anything new.
Mm-mm. And I'm not going to get on a soapbox about it. As a person with indigenous ancestry, I could. But I'm tired.
I've already been on that one too long.
So instead, what I'd like to do is I do like the idea of expressing gratitude.
And eating together.
And eating a good meal together.
I love get-togethers and eating.
But I would like to express gratitude to y'all instead of doing business time. Thank you for being with us all these years. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your kind messages. Mm-hmm. Except the haters, I guess.
But
I'm not mad. Like, I'm not mad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't worry, I get it on your behalf.
Oh, cool. You just don't tell me about it.
No, absolutely not.
Just
Why
direct
would I do
all
that?
of it to her.
I just put it in the trash where it belongs, because I don't care. If somebody, like, ooh, it's funny to think, though, you've booty bothered somebody so much they had to write an email. That's wild to me. I've never done that in my life.
Well, it's funny when it's not your, it's not what you're trying to do. It's not my intent to make anyone mad.
No.
So when I don't have the intention of making someone mad.
Oh, you're surprised?
And I do. I'm like, oh.
Well, see, Willow has this
mad?
whole look.
You're mad?
Here's the difference. Willow has kind of like tee-hee like demeanor. I don't. I got tired a long time ago of wrapping my femininity in like any cuteness whatsoever. I feel like femininity is wild and mean and has teeth.
Yes.
And we
bleed and we don't die.
That's right, bitch.
Yeah.
We're still coming.
Yeah.
But the thing, I've had a baby. I walked through the valley of the shadow of death while alive, bitch. Yeah. So femininity is not a soft thing to me. And I'm just a loud woman. And I'm tired of making myself easily digestible. I'm tired of silencing myself for the comfort of others. I'm not going to do it. And I'm grateful that most of y'all support me in this. And for those, see, the reason I get the hate is because I'm an easier target, because I'm not expressing femininity in a way that they like. Yeah. And boy, howdy, my butthole's ready for a good licking. I don't care.
Disgusting.
It is, isn't it? But what I really want to say is thank you to y'all. I really appreciate
you. That was a really weird way to say thank you,
sure
Lillian.
is, but I'm a really weird bitch.
That's right.
Ain't nobody. I broke the mold. Thank God. Can you imagine 2 of me?
I actually need like 2 or 3 of you, to be fair.
I mean, the world could use it. We could get a lot done.
Yeah.
Man, my sex life would be real strange. Could you imagine would want to bang all of the me's at once?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I'd fuck me, so that's fine. Yeah, it's not Thanksgiving. That's weird porn. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm so tired.
Let's not
but
do that.
I love you guys very much, and I appreciate you, and I'm glad that, at least sometimes I brighten someone's day while talking about these horrible things. I appreciate it. I really do. And
I know I've said this a million times, but like, well, I feel like I've said it a lot, but
dick.
Not being listened to your whole life, growing up being the child that should be seen and not heard.
It's nice to be listened to.
And then having partners that like don't really listen to you, and stuff like that. It's like, it feels so good.
Validating.
It feels so good to be listened to and to be heard, and especially something that we put so much. I know, like, we have our moments where we joke around and we have to take the edge off, but we pour so much of our heart and soul into this podcast for us to be actually listened to, received, perceived, and like also genuinely understood, genuinely felt. And not only that, y'all feel like you're close to us through the things that we're saying. And man, I've
met some of the coolest people I've ever met via this podcast.
Good.
And that
Seriously.
Is great.
Like, it has brought together some of the most badass individuals.
So here's the only business time you get on Discord and come meet some of these amazing women.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And men and babies.
We got a few.
We got a lot of...
yes, we do. We have some non-binary folks. We got all kind of folks.
We got all walks of life.
And it's a nice place in there where everybody's
nice. vetted. Everybody's vetted.
That's right, or they go away. They ain't fucking around. But hey, enjoy your holiday. Please be safe. Please be safe. Don't be squirrely. Be careful.
And don't say anything stupid like I usually do, You
can say dumb shit if you want.
Girl, I say the dumbest shit whenever I'm in front of people. Especially family members. I just foot in mouth. So enjoy your holidays. Make your aunties and uncles uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Tell everyone how gay you are. And
how racist everything is.
Wear the ripped jeans. Wear the weird stuff.
Put all them piercings in.
Flaunt,
don't take them out.
Flaunt,
do not make the food's digestible. You ain't. There you go. But hey, I love you, and I will make it weird. I love you. But now I'm going to go because I'm tired and hungry. Yeah. So good night. Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.